Welcome to Nurse Burnout Solutions, the show that empowers you to beat stress, reclaim your energy, and discover lasting fulfillment in your nursing career. I'm your host, Betty McLean. I'm a nurse with over 20 years of experience, and I'm also a certified life and certified burnout coach. I'm here to share expert insights with you, a lot of practical tools, and some inspiring stories. So join me as we navigate the challenges of a career in healthcare, and I help you find renewed purpose and resiliency, one episode at a time. Hello, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about boundaries. So, boundaries is a huge topic. It's something that we deal with in our jobs, in our personal life. Boundaries is this big word that I think we like to toss around sometimes, especially in the personal development and wellness space. We like to talk about you need to create better boundaries. I need better boundaries. I'm setting good boundaries for myself. It's this word that we like to throw around, but in my experience, it's not something we do very well. We and this is a generalization, but until we really understand what boundaries are, what their purpose is, why they're beneficial. Boundaries look a lot like aggressive requirements that we put on other people. And it can look like that, or it can look like a wish and a prayer. So that's kind of what I've seen as a coach is I get people who are like, oh yeah, I'm great at setting boundaries. And then they talk about the way they set boundaries or the way they express that. And really it's just them being very demanding of the people around them. Or, and this I think is more common in the clients that I've worked with, they have this idea that they've created a boundary in their mind, but it's more like a wish and a prayer because people do things and they're like, well, I have a boundary, but I don't really enforce it. And so behaviors happen around them and they're like, well, I should have had a boundary around that. And then they just go on with their life. Today, I want to talk about just really basic understanding of how to think about boundaries and then how to start creating some boundaries that help you develop a life that you enjoy and allow you to create energy for yourself. So let's talk about what a boundary is and what a boundary is not. So when it comes to a boundary, when I use that word, there are fantastic books out in the on the market. The one that I recommend the most is Boundaries by Henry Cloud. Great book. He has several editions out also. But boundaries are guidelines that you have in your mind of behavior that you are willing to tolerate from other people, or behaviors or situations that you are not willing to tolerate. They are literally just a rule in your mind of how you are willing to interact with the world. Okay, so I'm gonna give you two examples. I'm going to give you a metaphorical example, and then I'm going to give you a practical example. Okay, the metaphorical example I like to use for describing what a boundary is, because a boundary is just there to protect your energy, right? And protect the life that you want to live. So the metaphorical example I like to give, there's this little house and a little garden and a pathway leading up to a gate, a fence and a gate. And in the movie, the main character is walking past and he's kind of dragging a stick along the fence because he hasn't decided if he's going to go in and talk to the girl. And so he's walking back and forth. A boundary is that fence. So everything inside of the fence and it has a gate in it is you, your house, your garden, your walkway. It's the energy that you have in any given day. It's the life you want to live, right? The fence is your boundary. And the everything on the outside of that fence, the city walkway, the people walking by, that is outside of your control. Okay. So a boundary is metaphorically a garden gate that you get to decide who and what stays on the outside and who and what come on the inside. Okay. So an example of that would be your work. Again, this is practical example. Your work calls you. It's your day off. You've just worked 3 days in a row. Your work calls you. Staffing comes up on your screen and they say, "We really need you to come in and pick up an extra shift." Everyone is calling out sick. We are in a bind. We really need you to pick up an extra shift today. What do you say? Now, you may or may not have created a boundary about whether or not you pick up extra shifts. The decision to say yes to that shift is going to have consequences, right? If you pick up that extra shift, you're going to get more money. If you pick up that extra shift, you're not going to see your family that day. You're not going to do whatever errands you had planned for that day. You're not going to do any housekeeping. You're not going to play with your kids. You're going to have to find someone to watch your kids if you have children, watch your dogs if you have dogs. There are consequences to saying yes, right? And there are consequences to saying no. Now, if you have decided ahead of time what your criteria is, then you have a good boundary. A fence, if we go back to our metaphorical boundary, right? The little house with the white picket fence, everything happening on the outside, that's people can do whatever they want outside of your boundary. If somebody is walking past your yard and there's no clear delineation between the street and your yard, let's say there's no sidewalk, and so they're not sure if they're on public property or if they're walking on your yard. You can't run out there. Well, you can, but this is that kind of aggressive behavior. You can run out there and say, "That's my private property. Don't cross my boundary." But then they can look up and say, "I don't see a boundary. I'm sorry. I didn't know that there was a fence here. I can't see it." Okay. Now, that's metaphorical. Now, if we take that and put it to our practical example, getting mad at staffing for calling you is and saying, "Oh, I have a boundary. I don't pick up extra shifts." At that point, you're just being aggressive for no reason. They didn't ask to be mean. They didn't ask to be manipulative. They're asking because they have a need, and people are allowed to have needs, right? If you didn't decide ahead of time, "Hey, I am not going to pick up an extra shift unless these criteria are met. I'm well rested. I have childcare. It's not going to be an inconvenience, whatever." If you don't decide that ahead of time, then it's not a boundary to say, "No, I'm not coming in today." That's just a reaction, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you think for a moment, okay, it's likely that work is going to call me on my day off. It happens. If you work in healthcare, it probably happens every week, right? If that is something that happens regularly and it causes you a lot of anxiety and a lot of emotional turmoil when staffing calls, making a boundary ahead of time will help relieve a lot of that pressure and anxiety. So again, if you don't have an established rule in your brain about it, you're just reacting, and that's fine, but that's not on them, that's on you. Okay. So take some responsibility there. Be like, you know what? I'm sorry. I did clearly explain to you that I'm not going to be answering my phone. Just so you know, I'm not coming in today. Thank you very much. Now, that situation's resolved. It's time to set a boundary for the next time that it's going to happen because it's going to happen again, right? People are going to make requests of you. Staffing is going to call. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about that situation. We'll use that example again. Staffing's going to call. They're going to ask me to come in. They might even use empathy manipulation. They might say, "Your team really needs you. Your work family really needs you. We need you to be a team player. This is really important," right? It's your job, not your family, right? So think about when they call again, what are my criteria for saying yes? So literally take 2 or 3 minutes to think this through. Put the phone down, grab a piece of paper if that helps you focus. What's your criteria for saying yes? I feel well rested. I don't have appointments or tasks that I cannot reschedule. I can find childcare or care for my dependents easily. If that happens and I have the energy, I will say yes. Great. If that criteria is not met, I'm going to say no because that's my boundary. So if you have that rule in your brain and they call, it's not dramatic. It doesn't need to be you being aggressive against them. You can simply say, "Oh, no, I'm not coming in today. Bye." Or this is the rule I had for myself, especially when I was working in the hospital. When staffing calls, I don't answer. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. When I was working in the hospital and I was getting to that point where I was really burnt out, I just stopped answering the phone. If it was my day off and I saw that staffing was calling, I knew the answer was going to be no. And so I would not answer because that's what I needed to keep myself calm and grounded and focused on my day off, right? Now I feel more confident in my boundaries. And so I have no problem talking to staffing, responding to texts. "Hey, can you come in?" "Nope, sorry, not available." Again, a boundary doesn't have to be aggressive. And in some cases, you don't even have to say, "It's a boundary for me that I not work on my days off." You don't have to say that. You can put this in any context, relationships. If somebody is saying something to you, or I have particular boundaries for myself around discussions on politics, and they can do whatever they want. The people in my life can talk about politics. The people in my life can walk on the public sidewalk, right? Think about the metaphor. How they interact with me is up to me. So if something is happening multiple times in a row, and I'm like, I don't like that interaction. I don't like talking about politics with that person. Okay. So I notice it and then I create a boundary in my brain. So if they start talking about politics, then I'm going to change the topic or leave the conversation. That's it. No drama. I don't need to lecture the other person about talking about politics. I don't even need to tell them I have a boundary against talking about politics with you. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It is simply for you. A boundary is for you to help you live the life you want to live. Boundaries need to be set ahead of time, but they work really well when you have a situation that's coming up frequently. Decide ahead of time, if this happens again, if this person says this or behaves this way, or this set of circumstances happens, then here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to lecture them. I'm not going to tell them they can't do whatever it is they're doing, right? Other adult humans get to do whatever they want to do, right? You don't get to control them. But if they do, how do I want to respond in such a way that I feel safe? I feel like I'm protecting and I'm creating the life that I want to live. A a sustainable helpful boundary is very simple and it's very sustainable. I love when you are first learning to say no to people in a boundary kind of a way. No, I'm not going to come to that event. No, I'm not going to pick up that extra shift. I love to start with just like one little boundary, right? If say you have family. Family is a hard one, right? Because there can be guilt and shame around saying no to coming to family events, to interacting in a way that they expect of you. So I like to start with the easy wins. So if you are someone who has very wishy-washy boundaries and you've tried and failed to set boundaries, find one circumstance where you feel like you have a little bit of, oh, maybe I can hold that boundary, and practice there first. The situations where people try to, guilt you into coming to events or guilt you into behaving in the way that you have always behaved in the past, it's not a bad thing. It's going to take time, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's going to take time to change their understanding of how you need them to interact with you, right? We're constantly teaching people how to interact with us. And that's not a problem. It's literally how humans interact. So they, the people in your life are used to interacting with you in a particular way. And as you are thinking about creating boundaries for yourself, creating a life that is sustainable and comfortable and that you feel good about living, you're probably going to have some situations where people don't understand. They want to continue to interact with you the same way. And so there's going to be some discomfort there. So make sure when you're setting a boundary, you understand why. Why are you saying no to those extra shifts? Why are you saying no to going to that family event? Because when work starts guilting you and saying you need to be a team player and this is your work family, we need you, the patients need you. When your family member starts saying, how could you not come to your, second cousin's dog's birthday party? When they start kind of being surprised or sad or upset with your boundary, you are likely going to feel bad, right? And you need to have that clear reason in the back of your mind. There is a reason. And it can be as simple as I don't want to. I don't want to pick up an extra shift because I'm creating the life that I want to live. I don't want to go to that family event because I'm creating the life I want to live. You are your own adult human, so you have to create the life that makes sense for you. Other people, work isn't going to be happy about it. People in your family aren't necessarily going to be happy about it, but you're the person that has to live with yourself for the rest of your life. So you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Because when you take care of yourself, when you have the energy when to do your hobbies and take care of your home and take care of your immediate family, you have more energy to put out into the world, right? When you're constantly taking care of the world and not taking care of yourself, you'll eventually not be able to take care of anyone. So boundaries are about creating that energy for yourself, that life that you want to live so that you can show up in the world in a way that makes sense to you and in a way that supports the life that you want to live. Now, I just want to, as we close up, I want to just reiterate a couple of things. If you've stuck with my rambling about boundaries, I know we've kind of been all over. Boundaries are about protecting your energy and creating the life that you want to live. Boundaries need to be simple and they need to be very clear. Clear, simple, and you have a reason. So I really like for people to create boundaries ahead of time and even write them down a few times so that they're very clear in your mind. Boundaries are about you. They are not about trying to control another person. Other adult humans get to make their own decisions. They can say whatever they want, they can do whatever they want. Boundary is for you, not for them. Okay? That's pretty much it. Boundaries need to be simple and they need to be for you, not to try to control other people. This is something that I work a lot with my clients on, is creating those boundaries with work, creating those boundaries within their family, within their extended family. Because when we have the right rules for engagement in place, we can have more energy. We can show up in the world in a way that feels good and sustainable to us. So I really encourage you. There are some really great books, like I mentioned, the one by Dr. Henry Cloud, and there's all kinds of information out there on boundaries. But if you are that kind of person who feels like you never can keep a boundary or you can never set a boundary, read some books, message me, and we can have a free consultation call where we can talk about what boundaries look like for you and whether coaching would be appropriate for you. But just again, pick one simple situation and try a nice, clean boundary and see how that feels. And don't try to change everything all at once, I guess is my is my parting suggestion. Don't try to set boundaries for work and for your extended family and for your partner and for all of these things, right? Pick one simple scenario that keeps coming up over and over where you keep saying yes or no or giving more than you want. Create that simple boundary. If this happens again, then I'm going to do this in order to protect my energy and my life. And here's my reason why. And then give it a try. Try it a few times. See how it feels to stand up for yourself and to protect your energy. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. Let me know if you want support in this. And if you are using this technique, you create a simple boundary. I would love to hear your celebrations too. And I will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening today to Nurse Burnout Solutions. Remember, I really believe that all stress is manageable and burnout is not inevitable. If you are struggling with stress or in burnout, I can help. Check out the show notes for ways that we can connect and get you the support that you deserve.